In this video, you'll learn about light and shadows. Every time you blink your eyes, you can look at it as a moment has ended. You blink your eyes again, another moment starts. And most people, they spend too much of their days as if they have an infinite amount of moments in their lifetime. In reality, life doesn't work that way. Most people spend their life, looking down. By the time they look up, half or most of their life is gone. And that's why it's important to look at light and shadows as a way of seeing life, because change the way you see things and the things you look at differently changes. Change the way you see things and the things you look at differently changes. With light and shadows, you're able to look at light as when you're conscious, and shadows of when you're subconsciously going about your day. The shadow part of your life is when your habits are taking you through the day, making you turn left or right habitually, the habits that you formed. When you're in the light, you're able to see that you're consciously doing something, consciously thinking about what this moment is going to be about, consciously thinking about making a decision about something that's important to you in your life. Every time we blink our eyes, we see light or shadows as we move throughout each moment, from the beginning to the ending of each moment. Just as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, is how we go through light and shadows, moment by moment, moment by moment. And that's why it's so important to look at going through light and shadows as, first, giving action. Second, how you feel about the action you've given. Third, what you learned from the action you've given. As you go from light and shadows, from light to shadows, from being conscious to having your habits habitually take over. As you see that there are times that you're conscious and times that you're habitually moving about your day, moment by moment, habitually, subconsciously moving about your day, moment by moment, too often spending time not giving any thought to being relaxed, breathing naturally, inhaling and exhaling. It's important to remember that you have to get busy living or get busy dying, because life is about creating or disintegrating. You're either busy creating or busy disintegrating. To look at it another way, create or disintegrate. Remember that if you remain in your head, you're dead. If you remain in your head, you're dead. That's why it's important to value growth over comfort. That's why it's important to value growth over comfort. It feels comfortable staying in your comfort zone. Very comfortable. But where you spend most of your time is what your life is about. And that's why it's important to consciously, when you're conscious, look at where you're spending most of your time. Are you spending most of your time in your comfort zone, or are you spending most of your time outside of your comfort zone, learning something new, learning that you have the personal power, you have the superpower to be conscious through winning actions? Because when you make a decision, when you decide to win what's next, is when you're in the light. And most of the time, when you're in the shadows, part of your life is when you're uncertain, when you're doubting your move. Remember that you can spend most of your life doubting whether you should make this move or not, doubting what this moment will be about. But this time, this moment, look at it like this. What you put into this moment is what you get out of it. And you can put a lot into this moment. You can put so much into this moment through, first, your actions. Second, how you feel about your actions you have given. And third, what you learned from the action you've given. And as you focus on giving, win what's next action, and you start this moment laser focused to win what's next, you see this moment take form into a reality that you're in the light, a reality that you step outside of the shadows into the light consciously, and not think about believing that this is happening, but that you consciously become aware this is happening. In this moment, you don't think about believing this is happening. You know this is happening as you move from the shadows to the light, as you remember that this is about light and shadows, starting this moment and moving to the ending point of this moment to start another moment of light and shadows, There's a story I heard about these factory workers that sewed clothes together, that stitched clothes together in a factory with sewing machines. They heard news that their supervisor was about to get fired soon. And these factory workers really liked their supervisor. The next day, this research group of these businessmen showed up into their factory, saying that they were going to perform a research study among the employees in this factory that sewed clothes together with sewing machines. The workers agreed and said that they will be in the study of this research group. The businessmen told them that it will be for 3 days, and they want to see how the employees performed in different environments. While the businessmen were gone and left for the day after explaining to them that this is just going to be a research study and how well they perform their work under different environments, they talked amongst themselves and say, maybe this research study has something to do with their supervisor that they liked. The first day, the research study started. The first thing they did is they replaced the lighting, and it was a lot brighter in that factory. And the factory workers, the employees in this factory that sewed clothes together with sewing machine, they were focused on one thing, improving the quality of their work. And as they replaced the lighting in the factory, of it being brighter, the employees' work improved even better than before the research started. The businessmen, the research group, documented what they were seeing, how much quality of work these employees were producing at a high impact, at a high quality level, in an efficient amount of time. The second day, this research group came back. They raised the temperature in the room to a level that's uncomfortable, somewhere above 80 degrees. And even though it was uncomfortable, these employees' level of work efficiency and accuracy improved better than yesterday. The research group documented that as well. The third and final day, the research group showed up. They walked and spent the first half of the day looking over their research documents that they researched over the first 2 days. And with this being the third day, they spent half of the day from the morning time of 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the afternoon, walking with a notepad, taking notes, walking through the factory from employee to employee, taking notes, randomly showing up as light and shadows show up in our life. They would show up and not ask the employees anything. They would just document what they were seeing from each employee. And even then, every employee improved the quality of the clothing, the quality of how well they sewed the clothes in an efficient, accurate level. With the research being over, this research group was conducting, they came back on the fourth day and they asked the employees, how were you able to improve the quality of your work? Even when we had brighter lighting in here, we replaced the old lighting up above to being brighter. We also had the temperature in the room that you were working at a very uncomfortable level. Some of you felt warm, some of you felt hot and sweating, and even then, the quality of your work improved. We then came back and researched on the third day how well you handled being uncomfortable, having just known us for 3 days. As we walked about and looked at your workflow, not saying anything to you, but just going about documenting what we were seeing through how you worked accurately, efficiently, together as a team. And even on the third day, your work improved even more. The employees who were in a sitting position, as this research businessman asked the employees these questions, one employee raised his hand and answered the question. Well, the reason why our work improved the 3 days that you were here was because we heard that you came in here and was thinking of firing the supervisor we've had for many years here, and we like the supervisor that we have here. We don't want the supervisor to be fired. That is why when you came in here, we improved the quality of our work at a high impact, laser focused level, efficiently, accurately, because we wanted the supervisor that we have here to be with us, to work with us, because we understand the importance of having a strong leader, of having guidance from someone we like, know, and trust. The research person who was asking these questions listened to this employee and said, and understood the importance in this moment of light and shadows. As you see in this story, of this simple example of light and shadows, you see that there were times when the employees were conscious. They were conscious of when these research group business people showed up. They were conscious when they showed up because they believed that this was because what they heard before the research began was that their supervisor was about to be fired. And they decided before the research began that every time that they were conscious, when their work shift started, was when the research group showed up to start doing the research on whether what they believe was if their supervisor was going to be fired or whether the supervisor was going to remain there. And the determining factor on if their supervisor was going to remain there was if their work ethic improved effectively, accurately, efficiently, and the times that they spent most of their time habitually, subconsciously, not thinking about the work level of being effective, of being efficient, of being accurate, was when the research group was not there, habitually. And that's why it's important to look at light and darkness, as when you're in the light, you're consciously going about doing what you do, thinking about the priorities that you need to achieve today as you focus and win what's next. And when you're in shadows, the shadow moments of your life is when you are habitually going about your day, not having to think, because your habit is doing your thinking for you. Your habit is what's running your life. As you look at light as the left side of your brain and shadows as the right side of your brain, and look at each part playing an important role in your life, and study the role they play in your life. Times in moments when you're in the light, consciously thinking about what this moment will be about. And while you're thinking about what this moment will be about, when you're in the light, you can ask quality questions, because quality questions lead to quality answers. Lousy questions lead to lousy answers. And when you're in the light, you can look at a quality question. What will this moment be about for you? Answer, what you choose, this moment will be about for you. Because what you put into this moment is what you get out of it. Because quality questions lead to quality answers. While you're in this light part of the moment is what this moment brings to your awareness. What you put into this moment is what you get out of it. Because everything affects everything else. Nothing stands alone. What you think about, you bring about. When you're in the shadows part of your life is a part that you're habitually going about your day. Habitually having your habits do your thinking for you. Something that you don't even have to think about. Because habitually, this is what you normally do when you're in the shadows of your life. When you're in the moment of your life that you have your habits run moments for you. Each part of light and shadows plays a role in your life. As you go from light to shadows, just as you see there are beginning parts of moments and ending part of moments. Light and shadows. Just as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And the center part of light and shadows is the invisible line when one moment ends and another moment begins. And right at the center part of light and shadows is the invisible line of where one moment ends and one moment begins. Just as there is a beginning and an ending to every moment. Just as there's a beginning and an ending to inhale and exhale. There's a beginning and an ending to blinking. To look through light and shadows is to look at a simple way of how moments impact our lives at a certain level. Because light and shadows is what governs our life. And through light and shadows, we're able to see that we have superpowers that we can use. And one superpower that we have that we can use is the power to give winning action. That is one of our impactful superpowers. Give winning actions. Win what's next through winning actions. Through light and shadows, we're able to see that there are things in our control and things outside of our control. Through light and shadows, we're able to see that there are moments when you're conscious in light and moments you're habitually moving throughout moments, habitually in shadows. And each one serves its purpose, light and shadows, as you become what you think about. Remember that you have superpowers. Remember that you can give 1% improvement in your life. That you can raise the level of how much improvement you give. You can give even 11% improvement over yesterday, because it's possible to improve the quality of your life. As you value growth over comfort, because change the way you see things through light and shadows, and the things you look at differently change through light and shadows. Nothing changes until a different action is made from you. Nothing changes until a different decision is made from you. And after you make a decision is when you give the winning action to win what's next. Do the thing, and you have the power to do the thing. Change the way you see things, and the things you look at differently changes. Everything affects everything else. Nothing stands alone as you look at the light and shadows in your life. And remember that you have superpowers, such as to give winning actions to win what's next in your life, this moment that's starting right now. You have the superpower to adapt to change swiftly. You have the superpower to learn that it's not what happens to you in life that matters, but what you choose to do about what happens to you in life. because life happens to everyone as you move from light to shadows, as you're consciously going about your day in light. And when you're subconsciously, habitually in the shadows, you can choose to consciously look at the direction that you're going in your life. Are you going left or are you going right? And see that either you're taking the path on your left or you're taking the path on your right. That's when you're conscious, when you're taking the path to your right, and that you can adapt to any change that happens in your life, because the moments that you're in the light are the moments when you can adapt and give more to this moment than you normally give, because what you put into this moment is what you get out of it while you're in the light. And as you're in acceptance that after the light is the shadows, that what replaces the light, that what shows up when the light is not around is your shadows of habits. And that's the constant battle that happens. When you're in the light, you create. When you're in the shadows is when you're habitually having your habits run your life. Remember that you're either busy creating or you're busy disintegrating, because life is about create or disintegrate. Create or disintegrate. You create when you give action consciously in this moment. You're disintegrating when you're in your head habitually in most of your moments, because when you're in the shadows is when habits run your life. To learn at least one thing new, such as light and shadows. Light when you're conscious, shadows when you're habitually having your habits run your life, is to see that you can learn something new and you can use it to your advantage in this moment, because this moment is the start of a brand new moment in your life as you're in the light. And this moment, as every moment goes, will end in the shadows of either a new habit being formed or a habit that was already formed before this moment began that takes over this moment habitually, because that's what happens in the shadows of either an old moment that's a habit that was already formed, or a brand new moment or a brand new habit that has been formed in the shadows, because you made a decision first in the light that this moment will be different. This moment will be a brand new decision that's made, a brand new winning action that's made, because change the way you see things and the things you look at differently changes while you're in the light consciously, because what you put into this moment in the light is what you get out of it. What you put into this moment is what you get out of it. So the actions you give winning actions, you should expect winning realities. You give losing actions in the light, you should expect losing realities when you're consciously in the light. There are things inside of your control when you're in the light and things outside of your control when you're in the light of this moment. Focus on what's in your control, the actions you give, and remember that you can give brand new actions. You can choose to rescue you, because there are times when you might feel that not having enough money feels like life is suffocating you because you don't have enough money, because you're barely getting by. You can rescue you by giving winning action. You can rescue you by giving winning action, because every winning action while you're in the light creates a reality. And the more winning action you give, the greater your chance. Every winning action you give gives you the greatest chance of creating the reality that you're looking to happen in your life, because winning actions creates winning realities while you're in the light. The shadow has a way of taking care of itself, because in the shadows is when the habits that you have formed takes over. When you're in the shadows is when the habits you have formed takes over habitually in your life. And even when you're in the shadows of the habits taking over certain moments of your life, remember that when you're not in the shadows, you're in the light, and you can step out of the shadows into the light. You can override habits by consciously making a decision that this time you're here to win what's next. This time you're here to win what's next. And you can go beyond believing to knowing with certainty that this time, as you're stepping out of the shadow into the light, this time you're here to win what's next. This is the Bedurolic way of light and shadows.